In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Pilot Custom 743 fountain pen with posting nib. I'll go over the specs, I will do a writing sample, and I'll tell you what I like and don't like about this pen coming up. Blake here with Blake's Broadcast. On this channel, I review fountain pens, paper, and ink, and as always, I put links in the show notes in the description below. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, it really helps out my channel. Alright, let's get on with the review. This is the Pilot Custom 743 fountain pen, and this pen is special in the custom lineup because it is the only pen that is available with all 14 nib grades that Pilot produces in the number 15 size nib. So you're able to get interesting nibs like this one, which is the posting nib. They have a Waverly nib, they have a stub nib, they have a coarse nib, they have a double broad nib, they have a Falcon nib. There's a ton of different nibs, and if you want some of those more specialty nibs in a number 15 size, the only way to get them is on this particular pen. The custom 823 and the custom 845, which also use number 15 nibs, are not available in near as many nib grades. So that's why this pen is interesting. I think in the custom lineup, out of the plastic custom pens like this one here, I think the 743 is the best looking one, and the nib I feel like is the most proportional to the body. So in the lineup, at least with like the torpedo shaped or cigar shaped pens, not talking about like the custom heritage pens, I do think this is the best looking. Now, the retail price for this pen in the United States is $360. I got this on Amazon Japan for $195, and I checked a review that I did for the Falcon version of this nib. I bought this pen in Japan over 10 years ago now. I was looking at my old blog, and I paid, I believe, just under $200 for this pen in Japan 10 years ago. So it seems like the price hasn't moved too much. Okay, so we can walk through the pen here. It is, like I said, a cigar shaped pen here. And this, I think, has one of the more premium looking trims out of the custom lineup. It is more of a top of the line pen. Now, above this pen would be the custom 845, which I did a review on a while ago. I'll put a link to that up in the corner. That was an Urushi pen with parts of the body and cap that were ebonite, but there's some plastic mixed in there. And that had an 18 karat gold nib. Whereas this is a 14 karat gold nib. And then above that, which I think is the newest pen in the custom lineup, the Pilot Custom, just called the Custom, has a number 30 nib. Anyway, back to the pen. We have this stepped ring here, which goes into the famous Pilot clip, which is this triangle shape that terminates in a ball. I love the look of this clip. And then I think that the trim here on these Pilot pens, especially these higher end custom ones, looks really, really nice. It says custom 743, and then we've got these stars, Pilot, and made in Japan. I think out of like the big three Japanese manufacturers, if we're comparing this to the 3776 Century from Platinum, and we're comparing it to a 1911 Large from Sailor, the trim rings, I think, on the Pilots, to my eye, look the nicest. They have these black fill. I don't know if it's cutouts and we're seeing the resin underneath. It's just nice to have that black color in the engravings. I think it just adds a nice look to it. This ring here has two little steps before a bigger center ring, and then there's an additional trim ring above that. And there's no ring quite at the end of the cap here. I know some people like that because they think it adds durability, and maybe it does, but I haven't really heard about many issues of these pens cracking in normal use. It is a threaded cap, and it looks like 1.5 turns to uncap. Now, one of my biggest complaints about Pilot is present on here. Not all Pilot pens, but just the custom line in general, and it even spills over into the Namiki Yukari line. You can see there's a big seam here, and there's two of them. This is from injection molding because this is an injection molded pen. You can feel these two raised seams, one here and then one on the opposite side. And I don't like this. I think they should polish these off. You know, maybe in this $200, $300 price range, this can be excused. But when you start getting into pens like the Custom 845 and the Namiki Yukari, you really shouldn't have seams on pens that are $500 and $1,000. That's just my opinion. I feel like they should polish these off so that you're not seeing that. On a Mont Blanc, they do not have seams. In Aurora Optima, more standard models with a black grip section. The grip sections on these are injection molded. The body and the cap are not, but the grip sections are, and there's no seams on them. The same thing for Sailor, at least the ones that I've seen don't have seams. They do have seams in the threading, which is very hard to get rid of. Same with the Clio Scribent pens. There are no seams on the grip section, although you do have some seams on the threading, but I feel like the threading is an okay place to put a seam. The pen is a proprietary Pilot cartridge and converter. It comes with the Con 70 converter, so it's good that it comes with a converter. This I have a Pilot cartridge in there. I'm not a huge fan of any of Pilot's converters. I think they make some of the worst. The Con 70 does have a nice capacity, and I find that it does work okay. The best way to fill a Con 70 is to stick the nib and part of the section into the ink bottle and then depress the button. So it's just not very, it's not as clean as a normal cartridge converter, even though the capacity is decent there. Now, looking at the number 15 nib, it's just yellow, 14 karat gold, and it says Pilot 14K 585 and then number 15 and PO for the posting nib. And then we have some nice scroll work around the edges, and we can see the date code, which is something I really love that Pilot does. It is 6/24, so that would have been June 2024 that this nib was produced. Plastic feed here, and we have the PO nib, and you can see that it's bent downwards, which is very unusual looking. The PO nib, my understanding of this nib is that it was designed, it's called the PO nib, the posting nib. It was designed for writing on low quality paper, which I guess postcards were low quality paper back in the day. So this would write without causing issues like feathering and bleeding and probably smearing, because it is sort of an ultra extra fine point. We can see there's just a tiny bit of iridium on the tip there. I believe Pilot is the only major manufacturer still producing a posting nib. I do believe that Platinum made posting nibs in the past. It's kind of a unique offering. Let's do the size and weight. Roughly 148 long, uncapped, looking at about 131, 132. Posting, it does post very nicely, about 162 millimeters long. It's a very comfortable pen posted. I use this mostly posted just because it posts very securely and it's nicely balanced in my hand. Now, if we look at the grip section, looking at 11.4, and then it does flare out a little bit at the end, so we'll get it sort of at the tightest point there, 10.5. So nice sized grip section. We can do the barrel quickly too. That's about 12.9. Yep. For the weight here, and the cartridge inside this is almost empty. Looking at about 22 grams, and without the cap, looking at 11.2 grams. It doesn't have a particularly premium feel in hand without the cap. I think the cap adds a nice amount of weight to it. One thing I will say that I find annoying about this pen, I think a lot of Pilot custom pens are like this. With the cap weighs pen down, so when it's on the desk, it's sort of leaning on the cap like this, instead of normally when you have a pen, here's a Clio Scribent Classic. On the desk, it's going to tilt up towards the body, but with this pen, sort of lifts up the body, so it's like this when it's on the desk. Now with the Con 70 converter, it does usually, if you have enough ink in there, go back to normal like this, but this is a really weird, nerdy thing to be talking about, but it bothers me that the pen is like the body is sort of floating up in the air when you set this on the desk. Let's do some size comparisons here. Here we have the Custom 74. Here it is with a Clio Scribent Classic. Here it is with a Aurora Optima. Here it is with a Pelican M800. And here it is with a Montblanc 149. So it's actually roughly the same length as 149. It's skinnier. Now, with the caps off, we can see that the nib, number 15 nib, is very comparable to the Pelican M800, the Aurora Optima nib, or like a Montblanc 146 nib. They're all in that same size range. Obviously, the 149 is bigger, and the Clio Scribent Classic is a bit smaller. Okay, let's do the writing sample. For the writing sample, I'm going to be using a Papermind Mitsubishi bank paper notebook. These notebooks are excellent for fountain pens and for Blake's Broadcast viewers and subscribers. You can get 10% off with code BB10 at checkout. This is the Pilot Custom 743 with the posting nib, and this is Pilot Black ink. Fast writing. That was me lifting, not the nib at all. This nib really has flawless performance. It's never skipped on me. It's just a fantastic writer. Now, I have not tried reverse writing on this. Oh, weird. I mean, I don't really know what the point of that is, but it seems like it's going to run out of ink there. Flexibility, I actually haven't really tried that either. There's a little bit there, but oof. That starts to get scratchy when you do that, but with normal light pressure, this is very smooth for an extra fine nib. It's really, really nice. I mean, like, if I were to just tear a page off of here, this is literally just a loose thing of paper. I mean, I can't write that well, but the nib has zero problem writing with it. It doesn't need any pressure at all, and it writes super, super nicely. Just as far as extra fine nibs go, I think this is the best that I've ever used. It's very, very nice. So what are my pros and cons for the Pilot Custom 743 fountain pen with posting nib? Well, for the 743 in general, I think this is a compelling option because you have all these amazing nib options like the posting nib. I also think this is a very good looking fountain pen if you're somebody that wants a very classic black plastic pen with gold trim. This is a really excellent option, especially if you're able to get one in that $200 price range. This would certainly be one of my top choices if those were your criteria. It's very comfortable in the hand. It's not too heavy. When it's posted, it does have a nice feeling to it weight-wise, and it's just an enjoyable pen to use. The posting nib is really excellent in that it gives you a very smooth extra fine nib, one of the smoothest extra fine nibs that I've ever used, and it will write on pretty much anything. It'll write on a receipt, it'll write on, low quality paper, it writes on a cardboard box. Don't do that, but it does. It's just very versatile for an extra fine nib, and it's very smooth. So I think in that regard, it's a very special nib, a really amazing nib. Pilot is, to my knowledge, the only major manufacturer still producing a posting nib. So that's all very cool. Now, cons. It's a black plastic pen with gold trim. This is not the most exciting pen. It doesn't come in a lot of colors. I was very excited when they came out with the Verde Gris color, which I do think does look quite cool, but really this is pretty much always a black plastic pen. I'm not seeing new versions of this come out. I would like to see more, but it's pretty basic. The seams on the grip section still really annoy me because they're very visible and you can feel them. And it's not just one, it's two of them. That I feel like I'd like to see better. Comes with a Con 70 converter, so you're in the proprietary Pilot cartridge converter situation. Not the best. Yeah, not a huge fan of their converters. The gold trim is more yellow. This maybe is 24 karat gold or something, and this is 14 karat gold. So there is a little bit of a mismatch of a color here. It's not terrible, but I do notice it, so I'm pointing that out. But that's pretty much it. This is a very good pen, and having all those nib options is really excellent. But that's pretty much it. Do you guys have this pen? Do you like this pen? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more fountain pen, paper, and ink videos, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much, and until next time.